Family. Back together again. Family.
My fellow knights, I bid you all a good evening. My name is Tyrion. I am one who walks on the path of geekdom and wishes to conquer the mountain that is YouTube. Here, on this warm midsummer eve, I shall review and discuss the latest play projected by the wizards of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Black Widow. Before I get too deep into the review, I must elaborate that I am not of the comic reading sect. While you may see my cache of many tomes on the shelf over there, I have not read most of them. Truth be told, I chose them simply for their artistic covers, most of which I have pasted haphazardly onto the wall as a tapestry of sorts. This no doubt influenced my perspective and stance of the play. I have little preconceptions for the plot, while my expectations would reasonably lie within the parameters of quality previously set by the performances of the players, scriptwriters and directors. In time, perhaps I shall too read them and dive deeper into the vast ocean of wonders. In this very armchair, drinking warm tea, from my Black Widow collectible cup. Cheers. Black Widow wasn't what I was expecting, that much was certain. I would say that it is the most mediocre MCU movie to date. Perhaps I expected too much from it, and perhaps I should revisit the older ones as well. That being said, all I could really say is that it is what it is. Just alright. The action was adequate, as were its visuals and cinematography. Combat sequences and choreography is not quite as riveting as Winter Soldier, but it had its moments, enough to keep you captivated throughout the movie. I honestly could not say too much about the score either. It didn't stand out by any means, but it complemented the movie well enough. The costume department also did a good job, but I suppose when you take into consideration what the Widows are, as well as Red Guardian and Taskmaster, there is little room for mistake. The plot was also relatively lackluster. The pacing felt rather strange, being too fast or too slow at times. The middle part of the movie dragged on for quite a while with not a lot of action to go on, and was filled with a lot of the family fun we saw in the trailer. It was something I had assumed would have been more important, but by the end of it all, it felt rushed and unfulfilling. The characters were the most polarizing thing about the show. The actors were terrific, delivering the witty lines and striking expressions expertly. Scarlett Johansson brings Black Widow back to life with gusto once more. Nothing much can be said there, except for the regrettable fact that she died in Endgame. Alas, we may never see her perform again. Regardless, she remains to be one of my personal favorites, and the one that compels me to venture further into the realm of comics. Perhaps my favorite character, Florence Pugh, nails her MCU debut as Yelena Belova and easily steals the show. While her character suffers from a lack of proper development, the right balance of charisma, humor and emotion elevated her immediately to the higher tiers on the list of my favorite characters. Melina was interesting, to say the least. I found the direction they went with her to be odd and perhaps even contradictory at one point, but her quips and banters with Red Guardian were amusing, as is Rachel Weisz's overall chemistry with the cast. Taskmaster was a massive disappointment. For a character whose reputation was to be built on badassery, it was absolutely scant. Maybe I am exaggerating, but it felt that half of the action involving Taskmaster was already in the trailers. A massive departure from the comics. Thematically fitting perhaps, but no matter how you swing it, Taskmaster was a washout of a character. Red Guardian was an even bigger letdown, the most disappointing of all. David Harbour plays the big muscular father figure that thinks mostly with his fists trope very well, but other than that, there's not much more the character did outside of making poorly timed retorts and dad jokes.
Why the aggression, huh? Is it your time of the month?
I don't get my period, dipshit. I don't have a uterus.
Or ovaries.
Maybe I expected too much of him, but him being a super soldier felt redundant, seeing that he never really got to throw any proper punches. Dreykov. Wow. Perhaps the most underwhelming and pathetic MCU villain. I have nothing good to say about his character. He's just a musty old pedophile that has an army of young women at his beck and call. No clearly defined goals or ulterior motives except power for power's sake. Bravo to Ray Winston for portraying him as he is though. I can already envision him receiving death threats from the rabid fans. It may be too late to say this now what with my rather harsh sounding review, but even with all of its flaws, it wasn't a terrible movie by any means. I think I shot myself in the leg by expecting something fundamentally different. My words may be too scathing. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, and enjoy the movie. On to our trivial discussions. First on my list is something that has been bothering me since Black Widow's second appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Glock. The 26 in particular. It is a pistol used by Black Widow throughout most of her projections. I do not hail from the Margraviate of Austria, nor do I have any practical experience with the class of weapons that are firearms. All of which you see here belong to my lord, and he uses them in war reenactments where no blood is shed. However, I lament the fact that they chose such a boring gun, or rather guns, to be used as her mainstay throughout multiple movies. I would have preferred something more compelling and nuanced, perhaps even a Russian gun.
But Tyrion,
You proclaim.
despite her Russian nationality, she has worked for SHIELD and other multinational organizations. They do not need to use Russian guns. Furthermore, does the Glock not have a reputation for reliability and ease of modification and customization? And isn't the Glock 26 a subcompact gun made for concealed carry? Would that not be a suitable weapon for a spy assassin like her?
Right you are, my friends. However, you must remember, 'tis but a mere projection. The reliability of her gun is but subjected to the will of the scriptwriters. Many instances of bottomless magazines, or jamming in the most opportune of moments, have occurred time and time again in the realm of fiction. So has the difficulty of carrying multiple weapons been overlooked. This would mean that the aesthetic and visuals would take precedent. This is where I am conflicted, as I am not a fan of how Glocks look. I do not think they're hideous by any means, especially when customized and well augmented. Yet, I find them to be less than, what is the word? Charming, if you will. I would have rather seen her using other firearms such as the Ruger Mark IV, the FN57, the Walther PPK, which she also carried, but did not use, in Iron Man 2, or a particular heavily modified Tokarev, which happens to be Russian. As one of the geeky fools that enjoy speculating about nonsense, I want to talk a little bit more about Taskmaster. I must say I wasn't surprised with the revelation that she turned out to be Antonia Dreykov. I speculated with several of my mates in the past that I believe she would turn out to be a woman, although her identity I did not guess correctly. I just assumed she was something along the lines of being the best widow the Red Room could procure. This is very different and sets her radically apart from her comic book counterpart, whose abilities come from being a talent, developed skill, or occasionally superpower, rather than being a cybernetically enhanced human that underwent training and chemical subjugation as a widow. Taskmaster decisively beats Black Widow in their first encounter, someone who is speculated to be of a similar level to the other badass women, such as Okoye, Wasp, or Hill. This would clearly put her a cut above most of them. I doubt she would fare as well against Steve or Bucky, but she would definitely be a worthy adversary. She did beat the snot out of Red Guardian however, and while he is out of shape and practice, he did retain most of his super soldier strength, which I suppose counts for something. That being said, I doubt she could beat the Winter Soldier. While agile and powerful, and clearly having enough strength to lodge her shield into metal, it should be noted that she did not throw it into a solid piece like the Winter Soldier did on the highway fight. She threw it at an open window. Not to mention Bucky managed to crack the glass and even break out of the containment unit he was kept in Civil War. Antonia didn't manage a crack in a glass wall without any reinforcements. She does, however, the ability to analyze and imitate the fighting style of seemingly everyone in the MCU, meaning that she has the potential to match him by imitating T'Challa's techniques. What do you lot think about this? Tell me in the comments. I feel as though I lack comic book knowledge on Taskmaster to make too many assumptions on the matter. The call back to the knife sequence in the Winter Soldier movie was a very nice touch, seeing that it is one of my favorite moments, in one of my favorite fights in the entirety of the MCU. Well then, I suppose I'll end it here. My lord has made improvements to his skills at manipulating projections, but I feel as though it is inadequate. Regardless, I solemnly swear to return within the next fortnight to discuss other pressing matters in the realms of fiction, most notably something involving what may be one of the strangest types of romances in all of fictional history. Or is it? Farewell, my brethren, old and new. Stay sharp. Take care of yourselves and beware the plague. A quick toast to you all, to good health and bountiful fortune. Cheers. We shall meet again by the warmth of the fireplace, under the light of the moon. Adieu.